Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirect, it involves...
It is the moment the WNBA hierarchy feared the most. And Stephen A. Smith just said the quiet part out loud. Caitlin Clark isn't just playing basketball anymore. She is completely rewriting the business of women's sports, and it looks like she is finally done playing nice with a league that hasn't protected her. Reports and rumors are swirling that the new collective bargaining agreement negotiations are going to be a bloodbath. And the reason is simple. Clark holds every single card. The commissioner is scrambling. The veterans are fuming. And according to the loudest voice in sports media, the WNBA might have just realized they pushed their golden goose too far. But if you think this is just about a paycheck, you are missing a much darker and more expensive picture. This is about leverage, respect, and a potential exodus that could bring the entire league to its knees. To truly understand why Commissioner Cathy Engelbert is reportedly in a state of shock, we must examine the timeline of events that led to this breaking point. The WNBA Players Union decided to opt out of their current labor deal recently, a move that throws the entire future of the league into chaos. While this is technically a union decision, everyone knows who the real engine behind this is. The league recently secured a media rights deal worth over $2 billion, a number that was laughable before Clark put on a jersey. She single-handedly drove viewership up by triple digits. The leverage here is undeniable. The league creates the revenue, but Clark creates the relevance. If she decides she doesn't like the terms of the new deal, the entire house of cards starts to wobble. But before we dive into the numbers, we have to address the elephant in the room that Stephen A. Smith has been screaming about for months. The unrivaled threat. This isn't just a rumor anymore. It is a tangible multi-million-dollar reality that is breathing down the neck of the WNBA. Unrivaled is the new 3-on-3 league founded by stars Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. And it was designed to keep talent in America during the off-season. However, speculation has been rampant that this new league is preparing an offer for Clark that doesn't just include a salary, but potentially equity ownership stakes that could rival the type of deal Lionel Messi got in Miami. This gives Clark the ultimate weapon, the ability to say no. She doesn't need to grind in Europe or play for peanuts in the WNBA off-season. Stephen A. Smith pointed out that this option essentially holds a gun to the head of the WNBA. If they don't offer a CBA that reflects her true value, she has a multi-million-dollar parachute waiting for her elsewhere. The existence of Unrivaled completely changes the negotiation table. In the past, WNBA players had to go to Russia or Turkey if they wanted to make real money. That is a dangerous and exhausting grind. Now, there is a domestic option that promises high pay, fewer games, and less wear and tear on the body. For a player like Clark, who plays a high-minutes, high-intensity style, this is attractive. If the WNBA thinks they can offer her an incremental raise and keep her happy, they are delusional. The shock from the commissioner's office is likely the realization that they no longer have a monopoly on professional women's basketball in the United States. They have competition, and their competition is courting their biggest star with open arms and open checkbooks. Stephen A. Smith hasn't held back on this topic, blasting the WNBA leadership for what he calls a catastrophic mismanagement of a generational talent. His argument is that Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and the league allowed a narrative of jealousy and physical targeting to fester throughout Clark's rookie year. Instead of rolling out the red carpet and marketing her like the NBA did with Michael Jordan or Larry Bird, they let her get headhunted. SAS confirmed what many fans were thinking. The league's failure to protect its biggest asset has created a rift. Now that it's time to negotiate money, why would Clark do any favors for a hierarchy that hung her out to dry? This jealousy narrative isn't just media fabrication. It's something that is played out live on national television. We have to look at the specific incidents that have likely fueled Clark's refusal to accept the status quo. We all saw the hard fouls, the body checks from players like Kennedy Carter, and the passive-aggressive comments from legends like Cheryl Swoops. There has been a distinct "you can't sit with us" energy directed at the rookie. This hostility creates a massive problem for the commissioner during these CBA talks. If the working conditions involve getting targeted by your peers while the referees swallow their whistles, no amount of money makes that a good deal. The speculation is that the new demands will include better travel, better security, and a league culture that actually values its stars rather than trying to dim their light. Let's look at the numbers that have everyone furious. Clark's rookie salary was roughly $76,000 in the context of the revenue she generated filling arenas that used to be empty and selling out merchandise in minutes. That number is practically criminal. It's an insult. To put it in perspective, the WNBA finally implemented charter flights this season, largely because of the security risks associated with Clark's fame. Before her, teams were flying commercial. The league is modernizing solely because she forced them to. The rumors circulating suggest that Clark's camp is fully aware that she is being underpaid by a massive margin. The refusal to accept the status quo isn't greed. It's business. The WNBA has been operating on a model where the players have no power. But that era ended the moment Clark was drafted. She is generating millions and seeing pennies. And that math is about to change violently. The financial disparity is startling when you look at the Caitlin Clark effect on the entire sports ecosystem. It's not just about ticket sales for the Indiana Fever. It's about the opposing teams. When the Fever travel to play in Washington or Atlanta, those teams move their games to larger NBA arenas to accommodate the crowds. They are setting franchise attendance records just because Clark is in the building. Stephen A. Smith argues that Clark is essentially subsidizing the rest of the league. She is putting money in the pockets of the very players who are fouling her hard and talking trash in the media. This dynamic is unsustainable. Why should she sign a CBA that splits revenue evenly with people who don't generate the same value? This is where the negotiations will get ugly. The idea of a revenue split works when everyone pulls their weight. But right now, Clark is pulling the weight of 12 teams. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert is now caught between a rock and a hard place, and her recent public stumbles haven't helped. Remember the interview where she was asked about the racism and vitriol directed at players? Instead of taking a firm moral stance, she pivoted to talking about corporate sponsorships and the rivalries being good for business. It was a PR disaster that alienated the players' union and made the league look heartless. This lack of leadership is exactly why the players opted out of the CBA. They don't trust the person at the top. If Clark doesn't trust the commissioner to handle the social climate of the league, why would she trust her with her financial future? The shock is the realization that the players are organized, angry, and led by a rookie who has nothing to lose. This brings us to the refusal. What does it actually look like if Caitlin Clark refuses the WNBA deal? It looks like a holdout. It looks like her playing exclusively for Unrivaled or taking a sabbatical. The WNBA season is short. It runs during the summer. If Clark decides to sit out a season to prove a point, the ratings would crash. The TV networks, who just promised $2 billion, would be furious. They didn't pay for the WNBA. They paid for the Caitlin Clark show. If the star doesn't show up, the network executives will be calling the commissioner demanding answers. This is the leverage Stephen A. Smith is talking about. Clark can hurt the league's wallet significantly more than they can hurt hers. She has Nike deals, Gatorade deals, and massive endorsements. The WNBA's salary is pocket change to her. She is playing for legacy, not for rent money. Furthermore, we have to analyze the role of the WNBA Players Association, WNBPA. The union president Ino Amici and the leadership are in a tricky spot. They have to fight for all players from the 12th woman on the bench to the superstar. But the reality is that the superstar is the only reason they have leverage. There is a rumored internal conflict between the old guard who wants everything to be equal and the new reality where one player is worth more than the rest combined. If the union tries to force Clark into a bad deal just to share the wealth, she might distance herself from the union entirely. We have seen this in the NBA where stars have their own gravity. Clark's team is likely pushing for a salary cap exception or a supermax deal that far exceeds what has ever been paid in the history of the league. Let's go deeper into the unrivaled equity rumor, because this is the game share. In professional sports, the holy grail is ownership. Michael Jordan became a billionaire not because of his Bulls salary, but because of his equity in Jordan Brand and later team ownership. If Unrivaled offers Clark a percentage of the league itself, she becomes a partner, not just an employee. The WNBA, as currently structured, cannot offer her equity in the franchises. This structural disadvantage is massive. Stephen A. Smith knows this. He knows that smart money chases equity. If the WNBA Commissioner can't find a way to offer Clark a piece of the pie, she will lose her to the league that can. This is why the panic is setting in. They are fighting a 21st century business battle with a 20th century rulebook. The mean girl culture we touched on earlier also has a financial impact. Brand safety is a real thing. Major corporations like State Farm and Gatorade want their athletes to be in positive, uplifting environments. If the WNBA continues to be perceived as a toxic, petty environment where veterans bully the young star, brands might pull back. They want to be associated with Clark, not with the drama surrounding her. By refusing the current CBA and demanding a better culture, Clark is actually protecting her brand partners. She is telling the league that if they want the corporate sponsorship money to keep flowing, they need to clean up the product. The rough fouls and the online hate mobs are bad for business. And Clark is smart enough to know that. Stephen A. Smith also drew a parallel to the NBA in the 1980s. Before Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, the NBA was struggling. The finals were shown on tape delay. It wasn't a global juggernaut. Those two stars saved the league, and they were treated like royalty. SAS argues that the WNBA is in its 1980s moment. They have the savior, but they are treating her like a burden. The refusal to acknowledge this reality is what is driving the wedge. The commissioner seems to want the success that Clark brings without acknowledging that Clark is the one bringing it. You can't have it both ways. You can't cash the check she generates while pretending she is just another rookie. The negotiations are also likely to touch on things like pension plans, maternity leave, and post-career health care. These are things the veteran players have fought for years. Ironically, Clark's leverage might finally get these things funded, but the veterans have to be willing to let her lead. If the resentment continues and the players don't unify behind Clark, the owners will divide and conquer. Stephen A. Smith has warned about this. He said that if the players let jealousy cloud their judgment, they will blow the biggest opportunity they have ever had. Clark is the battering ram that can break down the door to higher salaries for everyone, but only if the other players stop trying to trip her while she holds the ram. We also have to consider the expansion teams. The WNBA is adding teams in San Francisco, Toronto, and Portland. These new ownership groups paid record fees to get into the league.
Why?
Because they are betting on the growth curve that Clark started. If Clark refuses the CBA or leaves the league, those franchise values tank. The new owners in the Golden State Valkyries and the other expansion cities are likely pressuring Commissioner Engelberg to get this deal done at any cost. They didn't buy a team to watch the ratings plummet. They bought a team to host Caitlin Clark once a year and sell out their arena. The pressure on the commissioner isn't just coming from the players. It's coming from the billionaires who just bought into the league. There is also the Olympic snub factor. Remember when Clark was left off the Team USA roster for the Paris Olympics? The selection committee said it was a basketball decision, but the public saw it as a gatekeeping move. That decision cost NBC millions in viewership and likely hurt the growth of the women's game globally. That moment was a turning point. It showed Clark that the establishment was not on her side. Why would she sign a long-term CBA with the same establishment that denied her a gold medal opportunity? That snub might have been the straw that broke the camel's back. It proved that the basketball experts running the show were disconnected from reality. Now, during contract talks, that disrespect is going to cost them. What happens next? The timeline is tight. The current CBA runs for a bit longer, but the opt-out means the clock is ticking. We are likely going to see a media war. Reports will leak about greedy players or tone-deaf owners, but Stephen A. Smith has already framed the narrative. It's Clark versus the old guard. By positioning the story this way, he has ensured that the public sentiment remains with the star. The WNBA is in a lose-lose situation. If they tries to paint Clark as the villain, she is too popular and the numbers are too clear. The commissioner's shock is the realization that she has no spin moves left. She has to pay up. The implications of this standoff extend beyond basketball. It's a case study in labor relations in the influencer era. Clark is the prototype of the modern athlete creator. She has a direct line to her fans. She doesn't need the league's marketing department. In fact, the league's marketing department needs her. This power shift is terrifying for traditional sports executives who are used to